So before you confidently nod along to any more animal facts, maybe we should slow down for a second. Not to learn anything fancy or academic, but just to check how many things we have been very confidently wrong about. Some misconceptions sound harmless, some are a little embarrassing, and a few make you stop and think about how many people you have probably said this to already. We are starting with a story so familiar that if you have never heard it, you probably have never been on the internet. A misunderstanding that is gross ridiculous and somehow refuses to die. The first story begins the moment you go to sleep. Story 1. Spiders crawl into your mouth while you sleep. Everyone has heard this at least once. Usually right when the lights go out and your brain switches to horror movie mode, humans swallow an average of 8 spiders a year while sleeping. You hear that, and suddenly your lips seal shut, your tongue stands at attention, and your imagination rolls the footage of a spider sliding down from the ceiling straight into your throat. It is gross not because spiders are dangerous, but because why your mouth, of all the places on Earth, why pick the one hole that snores on cue? Science shows up and completely ruins the spooky vibe. Spiders hate vibrations, hate human smells, and absolutely hate warm, wet caves that breathe like a diesel engine. On top of that, there is no serious research backing the number 8. It was literally made up to see who would confidently swallow the story. And here is the punchline: spiders do not crawl into your mouth. Humans, however, are more than willing to swallow anything ridiculous as long as it sounds scary enough. Story 2. Dogs only see the world in black and white. Growing up, everyone is told that dogs see the world like they are stuck in an old black and white movie, like their entire life is a noir film. Sad, moody, no color, and maybe a sad saxophone playing in the background. So kind-hearted humans go buy dog toys, bright red, neon blue, blazing yellow, thinking, at least I can bring some color into this poor creature's life. But the truth is, dogs are not colorblind. They just do not see color the way humans do. Dogs can see blue and yellow, but red and green get mashed together into a vague, disappointing blur. Which means when you throw a red ball onto green grass to your dog, that is not a game, that is Where is Waldo Hell Edition. And here is the funniest part. You think the dog is dumb for not finding the ball. The dog is thinking my human just switched this game to expert mode. Story 3. 1 human year equals 7 dog years. Anyone who has ever owned a dog knows this sacred math by heart. Take the dog's age and multiply it by 7. Fast, clean, convenient, no thinking required. A 2-year-old dog. Okay, that is 14 in human years, a 10-year-old dog. 70 already time for deep life talks. It sounds very scientific until you try applying it the other way around to humans. If 1 human year equals 7 dog years, then a 1-year-old baby equals a 7-year-old dog, meaning middle-aged, complaining about back pain, and suddenly picky with food. A 20-year-old human would be a 140-year-old dog, which biologically would basically be a mythological creature. Clearly, this math is broken. The truth is, dogs age very fast in their first few years and then slow down. Lifespan also depends on breed size and lifestyle. There is no magic times 7 number at all, but people still use it. Not because it is correct, but because it helps us cope. At least I am still younger than my dog. Story 4. Mice love cheese more than anything. The classic image from childhood to adulthood is a mouse with sparkling eyes hugging a golden piece of cheese with a trap about to snap behind it. Cartoons taught us that mice love cheese the way Italians love pizza. It sounds so reasonable that no one ever stops to ask why cheese. The truth is way less romantic. Real mice do not actually like cheese. Many of them actively avoid it because the smell is too strong. With their sensitive noses, cheese is like someone talking way too loudly in an elevator. Not tempting, just stressful. What mice actually love is sweet food grains and seeds. Put a piece of cake peanut butter or sunflower seeds next to cheese, and the cheese will be completely ignored without mercy. The funny conclusion is, this mice are not fancy food critics. They do not care about pairing cheese with wine, they just want a quick snack and to disappear before you have time to scream. Story 5. Cats always land safely. The internet has taught us one very dangerous thing. Cats are basically invincible creatures. Fall from anywhere, twist midair, land like a ninja, shake it off, and walk away like nothing happened. So humans start seeing cats as a law of physics that goes meow. And that belief is the real problem. Yes, cats have a righting reflex when they fall, but it is not unlimited magic. The reflex needs enough height to rotate enough time to adjust, and conditions where the body can actually handle the impact. Too low and they do not have time to turn. Too high and physics wins. In real life, cats still break bones, suffer internal injuries, and can even die if they fall the wrong way. They are not immune, just better at adapting than we think. So here's the punchline. Cats are not superheroes and your house is not a laboratory. Do not turn your cat into an experiment to see if gravity still works. Newton already did that with apples, not cats. Story 6. Any bee that stings you dies. There is a small comfort when you get stung. It is okay. It stung me, so it died. It sounds like a moral victory. You are in pain, swollen, quietly suffering, but at least in your head you are thinking, I am not alone. You paid the price too. The problem is that comfort is wrong. Only honeybees die after stinging because their stinger has barbs that hook into your skin like a tragic anchor. When they fly away, they rip their own abdomen out. That is the real tragedy. Wasps, hornets, and ground bees. Sorry to tell you, they are built different. They are basically creatures with reusable needles. They sting, pull it out, pause for a second, and can absolutely come back for round 2 if they feel the drama is not finished. So here is the punchline: do not stand there comforting yourself with it is dead now. There is a very real chance it is just flying around waiting to see if you have any spots left that are not swollen yet. Story 7. Goldfish only remember things for 3 seconds. The internet has a classic meme. A goldfish swims one lap around the bowl, turns around and thinks, wow, a new tank. 3-second memory. And just like that, goldfish became the global symbol for forgetting passwords, forgetting why you walked into the kitchen, and forgetting why you opened the fridge. But the truth makes this meme a little embarrassing. Goldfish do not reset their brains every 3 seconds. They can remember routes, feeding times, and even recognize humans. Some of them see a familiar face and swim right over like, oh, this is the one who feeds me. Not because of love, but because their memory works just fine. Experiments even show that fish can learn and remember things for weeks, even months, which means if a goldfish forgets you, it might not be a memory problem, it might be a feeding schedule problem. The punchline is, this goldfish do not have a 3-second memory. Humans, however, can remember their partner's birthday for 5 years and still forget the password they changed yesterday. Story 8. Earwigs crawl into your brain. Just hearing the name is enough to send a chill down your spine. Earwig. The internet, old folklore, and a dark imagination teamed up to create the fear that a tiny creature sneaks in while you sleep, crawls straight into your ear, and then keeps going like it rented an apartment in your brain. It feels horrifyingly plausible, especially when your ear randomly itches at night. But the name itself is a historical misunderstanding. Earwig is not called that because it likes ears. It likely comes from old European language roots, or from people a long time ago just guessing based on how creepy it looks. In reality, it is the opposite. Earwigs avoid human ears like they avoid drama. Human ears are warm, damp, loud, and full of wax, which to an earwig is basically the worst Airbnb on Earth. They just want quiet shelter under leaves and rock cracks, places with absolutely no humans. The punchline is, this earwigs do not want to crawl into your brain. They just want to live a normal life and would really appreciate it if you did not scream when you see one. Story 9. A dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's. There is a belief that sounds very sweet and very dangerous. A dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's. And so the familiar scene happens. The dog lunges in to lick your face, the owner freezes like a statue and calmly reassures themselves it's fine, science says so. Except science absolutely does not say that. A dog's tongue is an impressive multi-purpose tool. It licks unwashed food bowls, it licks the floor, it licks its own butt, it licks things you never want to think about, and then finally ends the journey on your face. No mouthwash, no soap, and definitely no concept of hygiene. When it comes to bacteria, dog mouths and human mouths are simply different, not cleaner or dirtier. Each has its own microbiome, and neither one meets the standards for skincare. The punchline is this: if a dog's mouth were really cleaner than a human's, people would have been brushing their teeth with dogs a long time ago. Story 10. Ostriches bury their heads in the sand. The classic cartoon image and ostrich faces. Danger panics and sticks its head into the sand, as if not seeing anything will make the world disappear. The huge body is fully exposed while the head hides very confidently. And so humanity grows up thinking ostriches are so dumb, they believe if I cannot see it, it does not exist. This misunderstanding comes from the fact that ostriches often lower their heads close to the ground, but not to escape reality. They are eating, picking up stones to help digestion, or checking on eggs in their nest. From far away, the long neck pressed to the ground makes it look like the head is buried. In real danger, ostriches do something far more logical. They run very fast, or they kick back if cornered. One kick from an ostrich is enough to make a predator seriously reconsider its career choices. The punchline is this: if burying your head in the sand actually worked, natural selection would not have given ostriches such long necks. Story 11. Turtles can crawl out of their shells. Cartoons planted a very wrong idea in our heads. Turtles are like renters living inside a shell. Tired they go and bored, they step out, maybe switch scenery for better airflow. Seeing that many people naturally believe the shell is just removable armor. The truth is not cute at all. A turtle shell is not a backpack. It is part of the body. The shell is made from the turtle's ribs and spine, growing as one solid structure with the body from a very young age. Meaning a turtle cannot leave its shell, just like you cannot step out of your ribcage. The mild shock here is this: if a turtle ever comes out of its shell, that is not a magic trick, that is a biological disaster. The clear takeaway you should remember: the shell is not the turtle's house. The shell is the turtle, and every cartoon that made you believe otherwise owes you a small apology. Story 12. Alpha wolves dominate the pack through violence. From self-help books to get-rich podcasts, the word alpha is everywhere. The familiar image: an alpha wolf standing on a rock, growling, asserting dominance, and body-slamming subordinates with pure leadership energy. The weak get pinned, the strong rise. It sounds very masculine, very powerful, and very wrong. This mistake came from early studies on wolves kept in captivity under stressful conditions. When unrelated wolves were forced together, they fought for position. Humans saw that and concluded "aso alpha rules" by violence. But in the wild, wolf packs do not operate like a toxic company. They are families. The alpha is basically just the parents. They lead through experience, raise the pups, organize hunts, and keep order, not by constantly fighting to protect their ego. The punchline is, this real alpha wolves are not like shouting CEOs. They are more like tired parents who just want everyone to eat on time and not start drama. Story 13. Porcupines shoot their quills like weapons. Thanks to movies and illustrations, porcupines are often portrayed as half animal, half weapon. Danger appears and they fire their quills like missiles, leaving enemies stuck with spikes and instantly defeated. Seeing that many people believe porcupines are basically biological projectile launchers, the truth is much less cinematic. Porcupines do not shoot their quills. They have no mechanism to launch them out of their bodies. The quills only come loose with direct contact, basically when a predator charges in and then suffers the consequences. In other words, the porcupine does not attack. It just stands there and lets the other side make a bad decision. The logic is simple: if porcupines could actually shoot their quills, the forest would be full of bald porcupines and none of them would live very long. The punchline is, this: porcupines are not snipers. They are passive defense specialists with one clear message: get close at your own risk. Story 14. Snakes dislocate their jaws to swallow prey. Watching a snake eat is equal parts fascinating and slightly disturbing. The mouth opens way wider than seems reasonable, swallowing prey much larger than its head, making everyone think, oh, it must have dislocated its jaw. The image is scary enough that your brain adds an imaginary cracking sound, but snakes do not dislocate their jaws. A snake's jaw is not rigidly fused like a human's to begin with. Instead, the jaw bones are connected by extremely flexible ligaments, allowing them to separate and move independently. Nothing breaks, nothing shifts, and there is no need for orthodontics after the meal. An easy comparison is this: it is like wearing pants with an elastic waistband. You stretch it, it expands, you let go, and it goes right back. Nothing is dislocated, it is just designed differently. The gentle conclusion is, this: snakes do not destroy their bodies to eat. They are simply using a very smart biological structure, even if it still looks a bit unsettling. Story 15. Camels store water in their humps. From childhood, everyone is taught one very logical thing. Camels have humps to store water. You see that big hump on their back looking like a walking water tank. So it makes sense people assume when they are thirsty, they tap into it, and when it is empty, they refill it later. It sounds extremely convenient, almost like perfect survival design. But the truth takes away a lot of that cool factor. Camel humps do not store water, they store fat. Yes, fat. This fat reserve helps camels store energy and, more importantly, keeps heat concentrated in one place, so the rest of the body does not overheat in the desert. Water is handled differently. Camels drink huge amounts when they get the chance, retain water extremely well, and tolerate dehydration better than most animals. The funny takeaway is this: if you are thirsty, do not look at a camel with hope. It is not a water dispenser, it is just a very smart energy management system on four legs. Story 16. Sharks do not get cancer. There is a myth that sounds very scientific. By word of mouth, sharks never get cancer. Once people hear this, they feel instantly comforted. Somewhere deep in the ocean, there exists a perfect creature immune to the disease humans fear the most. This myth even spawned an entire industry selling shark cartilage with vague promises like nature has it all figured out. But the truth is, this myth is wrong. Sharks can get cancer. Scientists have documented tumors in multiple shark species in the wild. They are not immortal, not immune. Humans just did not look closely enough and believed way too quickly. The result: sharks were hunted and real science was ignored. Cancer is an extremely complex problem, and there is no magical creature that solves it for us. The more honest truth is Story 17. Lions are the king of the jungle. From childhood, we are taught a very majestic truth. Lions are the king of the jungle. They have manes, they roar, they radiate leadership energy. You hear it, and a throne just appears in your head. The only small problem is lions do not live in the jungle. They live on grasslands, savannas, places with few trees, lots of sun, and absolutely no jungle to rule over. If we were being geographically accurate, the title King of the Jungle would fit tigers much better. Tigers live in dense forests, hunt alone, stay quiet, efficient, and extremely dangerous. But tigers do not have a marketing team as strong as lions. The origin of this title comes from culture. Lions appear everywhere in crests, mythology, and symbols of power across Europe and the Middle East. They look like kings, so they were crowned kings regardless of the map. The punchline is, this: lions are kings not because of territory, but because of branding. Crown first, location details, let Google handle that later. Story 18. Bears hibernate completely and are harmless. The familiar image in our heads: a bear crawls into a cave, curls up, and sleeps straight through winter like it powered off. The idea is, once it is hibernating, it bothers no one, looks gentle, harmless. Basically a breathing ball of fur. And so many people believe that if you encounter a hibernating bear, you are safe. Reality is not that cute. Bears do not sleep deeply in a completely unconscious way. They enter a state called torpor. Their metabolism slows. Movement is limited, but they can wake up very quickly if disturbed. And when they do wake up, suddenly a hungry, groggy, irritated bear is the last thing you ever want to meet. More importantly, mother bears in torpor are extremely protective of their cubs. Waking them up is not bravery, it is a lack of information. The final reminder is very simple: if you see a bear that looks like it is sleeping, assume it can hear you and back away. Story 19. Duck quacks do not echo. There was once a scientific fact that spread everywhere. Duck quacks exist, but they do not echo. People nodded along because it sounded scientific, like someone measured it with fancy equipment and concluded this sound produces no echo. And just like that, ducks were promoted to creatures that somehow break the laws of physics. The truth is much simpler and far less mysterious. Duck quacks do echo just like any other sound. The quack is short, low frequency and fades very quickly, so the human ear has trouble catching the echo in normal environments. Not because it is special, but because it is not dramatic enough. An easy example: clap your hands in a cave and you hear a clear echo. Whisper a short sentence and the echo almost disappears. Not because whispers are immune, but because they are weak. The clear conclusion: ducks are not breaking acoustic laws. They are just quacking normally, and the internet did the rest. Story 20. Elephants are the only animals that cannot jump. There is a piece of trivia that sounds very neat and very scientific. Elephants are the only animals that cannot jump. It is so familiar that many people treat it like a complete biological law, but in reality this fact is missing the second half. Elephants almost never jump. That part is true, but not because they do not know how. It is because they do not need to and really should not. Compared to other animals, elephants weigh several tons, and their legs are built to support constant load, not to launch the body off the ground. Jumping means beating gravity and then landing. For an elephant, that landing is a serious problem for bones, joints, and internal organs. Many large animals can still jump because they are lighter, more flexible, and more willing to take risks. Elephants choose the smarter option, move fast, change direction, and use their weight as an advantage. The very real conclusion: elephants do not avoid jumping because they are incapable, but because gravity already said no, and elephants are smart enough to listen. Story 21. Peeing on a jellyfish sting. Thanks to movies and media, humanity was taught a very bold survival skill. If you get stung by a jellyfish, stay calm, find a friend, and pee on the wound. It sounds awkward, but oddly everyday scientific, like a folk remedy that has been validated by way too many beach movies. The problem is, this trick not only does not help, it can actually make things worse. Urine has inconsistent composition and salinity, which can trigger any remaining jellyfish stinging cells to release more venom, meaning you are turning one painful sting into a remix. The correct response is to rinse with seawater, not fresh water, remove any remaining tentacles, and use vinegar for certain jellyfish species. At no point does the process require unzipping anything. The funny takeaway is this: not every dangerous situation requires sacrificing your dignity. Sometimes science just needs you to stop believing movies. Story 22. Piranhas eat humans in seconds. Mention piranhas and your brain instantly switches to horror mode. A swarm of sharp-toothed fish charges in the water, boils, and seconds later only a clean white skeleton remains. Media loves this image because it turns every South American river into a floating death trap. Reality is far less cinematic. Piranhas are not underwater meat grinders. They are omnivores that usually eat small fish, insects, carrion, and even fruit that falls into the river. They only become aggressive under very specific conditions: prolonged hunger, low water levels, or mass stimulation. In real life, people swim, wash clothes, and fish in rivers with piranhas without vanishing in 5 seconds like in movies. Incidents do happen, but they are rare and usually minor. The clear conclusion: piranhas are more dangerous than aquarium fish, but nowhere near the eat a human in seconds level. The thing that feeds on our imagination the fastest is still movies. Story 23. Dolphins save humans out of kindness. The internet is full of heartwarming stories. Dolphins pushing drowning people to shore, protecting divers from sharks swimming in circles like ocean VIP bodyguards. And just like that, dolphins get crowned the kindest creatures on the planet. Heroic lifesavers without capes. The truth is a little less romantic. Dolphins do not act out of morality or human-style compassion. They respond based on social instincts, curiosity, a tendency to push floating objects, protecting members of their group, or reacting to unusual movement. A struggling human in the water to a dolphin can sometimes just be a strange object that needs handling. There are real cases where dolphins helped people, that part is true, but there are also cases where they accidentally pushed people farther from shore or made a dangerous situation worse. The important takeaway is: do not humanize animals. Dolphins are not angels. They are just dolphins living exactly how evolution taught them to. If you are helped, be grateful, but do not expect the ocean to run on human ethics. Story 24. Cows can be tipped over easily. In rural Western areas, there is a legend that sounds both cool and dumb. Cow tipping: sneaking into fields at night, giving a gentle push, and watching a cow fall over. It makes cows sound like giant walking gelatin just standing there waiting for humans to test their strength. Reality is the exact opposite. Cows are massive animals weighing hundreds of kilos with a low center of gravity, 4 solid legs, and excellent balance. They do not stand around asleep like cartoons, and they are absolutely not easy to knock over with a sneaky shove in the dark. Knocking over a cow would require significant force, multiple people, and a lot of stupidity. Because when a cow loses balance, it does not fall gracefully. It goes down following physics, and anything nearby is in serious trouble. The realistic and painful conclusion: cows are not easy to tip over. Humans, however, are very easy to send to the hospital when they trust farm legends over gravity. Story 25. Sharks are the biggest threat to humans. When danger in the ocean comes up, sharks always top the imaginary ranking. Sharp teeth, cold eyes, and once the movie music kicks in, your brain immediately understands apex predator. Media makes sharks look like creatures that exist solely to snack on humans. But when you look at real-world comparisons, the story changes tone very fast. Each year, sharks cause very few human deaths. Meanwhile, humans kill tens of millions of sharks every year for fins for profit, for misunderstandings, and for fear that is not backed by data. If you ask who is more dangerous, statistics answer very clearly: humans are far more dangerous to sharks, and also to themselves, to the environment, and to everything around them. The ironic punchline is this: sharks get labeled as killers while humans get called the intelligent species. But looking at the numbers, it seems only one side truly knows how to destroy. Story 26. Turkeys die from looking at rain. At first glance, this story sounds like pure internet nonsense. Turkeys are so dumb they tilt their heads back to watch the rain, forget to breathe, and then die. It is ridiculous and darkly funny. Like, if it were true, this would be the only bird defeated by normal weather. The truth is less stupid, but not very flattering either. Turkeys do not die from looking at rain. However, some industrially bred turkeys have poor reflexes and inefficient body structures. During heavy prolonged rain and cold, they can suffer from hypothermia, stress, or respiratory illness, and that is what actually causes death. In other words, the problem is not the rain. It is that humans selectively bred turkeys to grow fast, get big, and gain weight while sacrificing resilience and adaptability. Natural evolution was replaced with made-to-order evolution. The slightly bitter punchline: turkeys do not die because they are dumb. They die because they were designed for dinner, and the rain is just the final straw. Story 27. Owls are the smartest birds. From fairy tales to school logos, owls are always linked with ultimate intelligence, big eyes, thoughtful expression, perched on a branch like they are contemplating the universe. So the whole world just assumes owl equals smart. It feels logical because they look like professors with feathers. But science does not grade intelligence by facial expression. In reality, owls are excellent night hunters with incredible hearing and impressive vision. But when it comes to intelligence, they are not at the top. Compared to owls, crows are the real big brains of the bird world. They use tools, solve puzzles, remember human faces, plan ahead, and even hold grudges. Owls are different. They are very good at what evolution designed them to do, but they are not flexible problem solvers. Many owl species actually perform poorly on intelligence tests. The surprising conclusion is this: owls look smart, but crows actually are smart. One wins on aesthetics, the other wins on brain power. Story 28. Lizards change color to camouflage. The popular belief goes like this: lizards change color to blend into their surroundings. On leaves, they turn green, on rocks, they turn gray, and on a chessboard, they would probably go checkered, seeing that people assume they are nature's camouflage masters. The truth is far less Hollywood. Most lizards do not change color to hide. Color changing, especially famous in chameleons, is mainly about temperature, emotions, and communication. When cold, they darken to absorb heat. When hot, they lighten to cool down. When stressed, scared, or showing off to others, the colors shift immediately. In other words, their skin color works more like a status display than an invisibility cloak. An easy comparison: lizards changing color is not about hiding. It is like your face changing color when you are cold, hot, or annoyed. Not a stealth tactic, just the body speaking out loud. Story 29. Bats are blind. From horror movies to everyday insults, bats have always been labeled blind. Flying around dark caves, crashing into things, it looks like a serious vision problem. So humans jump to a quick conclusion: okay, it probably cannot see anything. The truth is the exact opposite, and it is a little embarrassing for us. Bats are not blind. Most bat species can see just fine, and some can even see better than humans in low light conditions. What makes them special is echolocation, a biological sonar system that lets them navigate perfectly in the dark. The issue is humans see one skill working extremely well and assume another must be missing. The logic goes, if it uses sonar, then it probably does not need eyes. An easy comparison: using GPS does not mean you are blind to the road. The slightly bitter conclusion: bats are not blind. Humans just tend to see something unfamiliar, jump to conclusions, and then call it a fact. Story 30. Hibernating bears cannot wake up. There is a fairly dangerous misunderstanding that once bears hibernate, they are basically powered off. No hearing, no awareness, no reaction. People hear this and imagine bears sleeping like rocks where you could touch them and nothing would happen. This is where biology wants to hold up a very large warning sign. The truth is, bears are not unconscious during hibernation. Their metabolism slows down, but they remain aware of their surroundings and can wake up very quickly if they feel threatened. Their heart rate is slower, body temperature drops slightly, but their defensive instincts stay fully online. And here is the truly dangerous part: a bear awakened in the middle of hibernation is often confused, hungry, and extremely aggressive. There is no cute, groggy phase, only full survival mode. The clear warning to remember is this: a hibernating bear is not a harmless bear. If you are close enough to think it probably will not wake up, then you are already too close. Story 31. Human misplaced confidence. Looking back at this entire chain of myths, there is one very clear pattern: humans are extremely confident when they are wrong. We believe spiders crawl into mouths, sharks are killers, dolphins are angels, hibernating bears are harmless, and we just keep nodding along to stories that sound good instead of ones that make sense. All it takes is one strong image, one repeated anecdote, or one movie that hits hard, and suddenly a myth becomes common knowledge. The shared thread in these myths is not animals. It is how humans see the world, simplifying everything, humanizing everything, and preferring memorable stories over actual data. We assign morals to animals, intelligence to appearances, and danger to things we do not understand. The issue is not believing one harmless myth. The issue is that confidence makes us stop asking questions, and once we stop asking, myths live very long lives, often longer than the truth. This part is here to set up the ending, not to call humans stupid, but to remind us confidence is nice, but curiosity is safer. Now it is your turn. Out of all the stories we just went through, which misconception shocked you the most? Or which moment made you pause and think, wait, I actually believed this for real? That is totally fine. Almost everyone has believed at least one myth on that list and believed it with full confidence. If it felt familiar, funny, or a little embarrassing, you are definitely not alone. These stories have been repeated for decades through movies, schools, social media, and even very trustworthy adults who also happen to be very wrong sometimes. If there is a myth you once believed that did not show up here, share it. Because the more we talk about them, the more we realize something interesting: we are not stupid. We were just raised on stories that sounded better than the truth. And once we start asking questions, the truth, even when it is less dramatic, is always interesting in its own way.